in the exam, what are the things that you need to understand to make your exam a successful exam? Because if you are not going to make sure of these things, you won't be getting CLB 7, honestly. A lot of students, they are using some tips and techniques which feel like it will work in the exam, but actually that is playing counterproductive, and it is making them score not more than CLB 5. These are the only reasons today, the reasons that I mentioned. I have seen this from past 7 to 8 months. It has happened a lot of times. A lot of students have given the exams, and even though their speaking was very good, they did not get the score. Okay, hello everybody. So welcome to this video. So today we are going to discuss about Section A and Section B of TEF Canada. This is going to be a very important video. Why? Because over the past few months, me and my team, we have seen some very important changes which are happening in TEF Canada exam. Not only that, I feel that students are not really staying updated, or they are not getting experience. Now, whenever someone gives the exam, they are giving the exam at a personal level, hence they are not able to notify or observe the differences in the exam which are happening now than earlier. But when me as an instructor, when I am seeing the experience of different students, I'm able to understand in depth on what are the examiners looking for and what are the things that they are interested in when it comes to speaking of Section A and Section B of TEF Canada exam. Alright, so first we'll be discussing all about expression oral. What does this exam consist of? What are the important things to understand? And then later we will talk about in the exam, what are the things that you need to understand to make your exam a successful exam. Because if you are not going to make sure of these things, you won't be getting CLB 7, honestly. Why? Because a lot of students, they are using some tips and techniques which feel like it will work in the exam, but actually that is playing counterproductive, and it is making them score not more than CLB 5. Okay, so we need to understand these things today. You need to make sure that you are applying these things that I'm going to mention. Before that, let's understand what is our speaking exam of TEF Canada. The speaking exam goes on for 15 minutes. Okay, it has two components. One is Section A, which goes on for 5 minutes, and then we have Section B, which goes on for 10 minutes. I'll talk to you in detail about what they are. But first thing, you guys have to understand that this is an exam which is in front of the examiner. So it is not like a computer. You're not speaking in front of the computer. It's not a CELPIP. It's not like CELPIP, right? You actually have to speak in front of this examiner, and all this information that I'm talking about today, you guys can, look for that information on this website as well, Le Français des Affaires. Okay, you can go over there and you'll be able to search this about TEF Canada exam yourself too. Okay, so nothing specific. This information is publicly available, but understanding the experience is very important on what are the things that students, when they're giving the exam, what are they facing, what difficult arguments or what difficult things the examiners are giving them, which is reducing their score. So that is the thing which we need to understand. So that is, I think, that is like a gem advice which you should really follow. Okay, so this, I'll explain it right now. So Section A, this is like a proper lecture of your speaking exam today. Okay, so don't take it as a YouTube video, take it as like a lecture. Okay, Section A happens for 5 minutes. Section B also happen for 10 minutes. But in both of them, you get 1 minute time, like a buffer time to prepare, right? So what will happen is you walk into the exam hall, into the room where the speaking will happen, and the examiner will obviously welcome you. They'll talk to you in French. Bonjour, ça va? Comment ça se passe votre journée? And stuff like that. And over there, first of all, it is very important that you are also building that rapport and that connection with the examiner. You are able to talk with them, because that is your first impression. If you're not giving a good first impression, the examiner right at that moment will get a good idea that, okay, your natural French speaking is not there yet. You are not able to really speak in French. So if you're fumbling, if you're not able to greet the examiner properly, that is also, it does not direct your score directly, but subconsciously it makes the examiner feel that you actually don't have that much level in French right now. So that is why this is also very important, that when you're walking into the exam hall, you are able to converse in French. Bonjour, j'espère que vous allez bien. Comment ça se passe votre journée? J'espère que les étudiants passent un bon examen, and stuff like that, right? So once you're done with that, that is when the examiner will be explaining you the instructions, and these are going to be the instructions. Okay, basically for Section A, what we have to do is we are going to be given with a particular affiche. In French it is called affiche, but that is actually a poster. Okay, in a poster we are actually going to be given with a poster. I'll show you an example. Okay, so you'll be given with a poster something like this. It can be an advertisement, it can be like some subscribe for a course or an offre d'emploi. It can be on anything. Okay, there can be variety of topics. This is just an example. You'll be given like a poster like this, and then what you have to do is you have to ask more questions about the service, ask more questions about the job, or ask more questions about the course. Whatever the thing is, you have to ask more questions on it, and you have to be really careful about this, because over here I'll read you the exact wordings how it says on Le Français des Affaires. This is the official website of TEF Canada. For section A, you have to be curious. The objective is to obtain as much information as possible about an advertisement or about an activity you will have to discuss about. To do so, you will have to ask your examiner questions or rephrase his or her answers in order to obtain more information. Now, it is not a Q&A exam. It is not like you are asking question, he's giving answer. You are asking next question, giving next answer, asking next question, giving next answer. That is not the case. Why? Because over here the examiner is still looking that you are building a proper conversation. So not just saying ki bonjour monsieur, ma première question c'est quelle est votre adresse. Deuxième question, serait-il possible de garer la voiture, est-ce que vous avez un stationnement? Parfait. Quel est le prix de votre service? D'accord. Ensuite, je voudrais savoir quels sont les avantages de ce. No. This will feel a very memorized section A. So this is the worst thing that you can do when you're doing section A. So what I recommend is, in order for you to be curious, you have to make sure that you are building a conversation as well, because section A feels like you are asking questions, but over here you are not only asking questions, you are showing your skill on how much you can converse in French naturally. Okay, so the more you include the personal anecdotes and the more you kind of like explain about your situation, that this is the reason I want to know this, or because of this reason I want to ask this question, the better it is. So rather than just directly saying ki monsieur, quel est l'âge minimum à participer pour participer à cette activité, right? Rather than directly asking about the minimum age, you actually have to give a reason why you're asking. Monsieur, pourriez-vous me dire quel est l'âge minimum pour participer à cette activité? Je vous pose cette question parce que j'ai 2 enfants et ils sont toujours intéressés à faire quelque chose comme ça, alors pourriez-vous me dire précisément la limite d'âge? Okay, so this same question, but it has become a lot more natural and a lot more well formulated, and it flexes your language. Okay, and so this is one thing which is very, very important, which students are missing. The reason students are not able to get a good score in the exam is not because they are not asking enough questions, not because their questions are not relevant. It's because their conversation does not feel natural. And the more you keep questions just like, okay, first question, second question, third question, fourth question, fifth question, the worse your performance will. No, I wouldn't say worse, but it won't be like you won't be getting CLB 7. Alright, so it is very important that you are making out a natural conversation, so that it does not feel like something memorized, something robotic. Okay, so that is one thing which is very, very important. Second thing which is very important in section A is that you cannot use pre-built templates or pre-built questions or pre-thought out questions, because examiners are able to catch that now. Okay, see, you are the only person who is giving the exam, right? For you are the only person, but for the examiner, you are his 150th student who is giving the TEF Canada exam. So over here, if you ask the similar question, quelle est l'adresse de votre bureau, as the same the same question was asked by the student before you, the same question was asked by the student before you, that is not really going to give you enough marks. Why? Because now those questions are becoming more memorized. The more common the question is, the more memorized the question will feel. Okay, so that is why it is recommended that you, whenever you get a topic, you try not to ask these generic questions ki okay, serait-il possible de garer la voiture? Is it possible to park a car in front of your building? Sure. I mean, does any do you go to any store where there is no parking, or at least there is no street parking? Yes. So those questions are not really logical questions to ask. Okay, so that is one thing that you should avoid, is that not asking the obvious questions. Alright, so the thing is, another question, serait-il possible de payer par carte de crédit? Can I pay by credit card? Sure, like 99% of the cases every company accepts credit card, so you can pay with credit card. So do you really need to ask that question? Okay, so these things matter a lot. So you have to ask the question which specifically is focused on the topic itself, and you have to be more curious about the topic, about that activity or about that service, not just ask these generic or peripheral questions. These questions can work when you have no more questions left to ask, when you're like, oh, I already asked 8 questions, now I don't have any other idea, what can I ask more, what can I ask more. Then sure to cut off the time, or you to spend a little bit more time, spare 15-20 extra seconds, you can ask a couple of these questions at the end. Then it works, because then also examiner is understanding that now you are exhausting the questions, you don't have any more questions or ideas left, then it's okay. But in the beginning, that's the worst thing you can do, okay, because then the examiner will get an idea, okay, you started with this, you memorize the questions, okay. So please avoid that. That is the only thing that I want to say about section A, is because students now, obviously I like to share this experience as well. I do a lot of analysis tests in which students, if they want to start at B1 or whatever, like B1, B2, there are some analysis tests which are done with Frenchify team, those who want to apply for Frenchify programs. And I have seen a lot of students, they literally tend to do this. They are like, okay, première question, like first question, second question, third question, while it does not feel like a conversation, okay. So please do not do this. One final point that I want to mention about section A is that the more you ask follow-up questions on the information given by the examiner, the better it is. Why? Because this is the opportunity. Section A and section B, both of the sections are actually the opportunity for you to flex your language. And how you will flex the language? The more you are on spot, the more you are able to engage in a natural conversation. And when you are asking more follow-up questions on the information given by the examiner, the better it is, okay. So for example, if your question is, monsieur, pourriez-vous me préciser le prix total de cette activité, okay, or de ce séjour, and then the person tells you the price, monsieur, le prix est $250 pour 2 jours. Okay, now you don't move on to the next question. You get more information about the price. Okay, on what factors does it depend? Monsieur, d'accord, je comprends que le prix est $250, mais le prix dépend de quel facteur? Est-ce qu'il y a un prix différent pour l'hôtel de luxe ou pour un séjour de luxe? Quelque chose comme ça. Okay, so ask something like that. So that's the thing. The more follow-up questions you ask, the more it feels like you are actually understanding the conversation and not just like making, giving generic questions again and again and again. So it has to be two-way. Conversation has to be two-way. Now, this is a section A. Okay, very simple. You have to ask about 10 questions. Like these are a couple of like minimum requirements that you have to do. First minimum requirement is that you have to ask questions for 5 minutes. For 5 minutes, the conversation for go on. You should never stop the argument yourself. It should always be the examiner who says, okay, monsieur, si vous avez d'autres questions, vous pouvez nous appeler demain. You can call us tomorrow. But you should never say, monsieur, ce sont toutes mes questions, au revoir. No. Let the examiner stop. Okay. And until then, you have to keep on asking questions. You have to ask about 10 questions, but you can ask more. Okay, less questions are not acceptable, more questions are acceptable. So you have to ask minimum 10 questions, but keep on going until the examiner stops you. Okay, so that is one thing which is very, very important. Now let's talk about section B. What happens in section B? Section B, you have to convince your friend. Okay, your objective is to present an activity to your interlocuteur, which is your friend, and you have to persuade him or her to participate. You will have to give your opinion and use examples to illustrate what you are saying. So sure, we have to give examples as well, plus we have to give our opinions, but the main thing is that we have to present a topic to our friend, and then we have to convince him or her to take part. Now I'll show you an example. For example, this is the topic: faire louer votre maison pour un tournage, chercher à augmenter votre revenu, louer votre maison ou votre appartement aux producteurs publicitaires pour tourner leur film, très peu de conditions, le contrat flexible, rémunération attrayante, le nettoyage gratuit avant et après le tournage. Procédez à info@letournageparis.com. Now, over here, you read it, you get 1 minute, okay, you took your time, you read it properly, you understand everything. Now, when you're moving on to, now obviously this is 10 minutes, okay. If the conversation goes on for 10 minutes, that means it is going to be a longer conversation and you'll need to speak more. Okay, in section A, I feel like, section A is easier because it's for 5 minutes, but sometimes it's opposite. because section B is kind of like a dialogue conversation. It is more easier. So some people feel like section B is difficult because it will have more time, but actually section B is easier because, oh, I think there is a fire alarm going. Just give me a second, guys. I don't want to stop the video in between. Anyhow, it's okay. Okay, now we are fine. So for section B, I hope there is no fire. No, this was a fire testing. There was a announcement in the morning. Anyway, so for section B, where I was, it feels that section B is difficult, but honestly, section B is easier. Why? Because the examiner is also able to build the conversation, and he or she is able to direct you a little bit. But still, the goal is to be able to have as much conversation as you possibly can while trying to lead the conversation. Okay, so do not speak less and wait for the examiner to say something. You speak more, and let the examiner interrupt you, or ask more questions, or give you the arguments. Okay, so that is why I feel like section B is easier. Section B is difficult. Section A is difficult because in section A what happens is you are asking question and the examiner is giving very, very brief responses. Oh, monsieur, quel est le prix? $1.5. Okay, and then you have to ask more questions to basically like get more information. So that is why section A is a little bit more trickier than section B. So you have to be more ready for section A. Okay, whereas section B, even though it's 10 minutes, it's easily doable. You just need a good formulation of language and a good level of comfort level in French. Now, before talking about section A, what I want to mention is that, while talking about section B, what I want to mention is that you guys will be judged on how natural your conversation is. Please do not memorize idioms, do not memorize je comprends mon ami, mais tu dois aussi comprendre que je comprends ton hésitation, je comprends ce que tu m'as dit. These expressions, if they are getting used naturally, you can use here and there, but these are not the main expressions which will give you marks. The only thing that will give you good score is your natural ability to formulate and explain things in French and give more examples. And giving more examples. Why? Because again, a lot of students I see what they do is they have literally memorized all the responses to the arguments. If the argument is, now, okay, what you are supposed to do, let's first of all talk about that. For first couple of minutes, you are supposed to talk about the advertisement. You're supposed to explain to him what this all thing is about, and then you later have to ask what do you think about this? Do you want to go? Do you want to do something like this or not? Like, do you feel like this is interesting? Okay, and now this is the time where examiner will be asking you more arguments. Écoute, c'est pas possible parce que j'habite dans la maison et alors où je vais habiter si je loue la maison? Si je loue ma maison. Alors, c'est pour cette raison que je pense que c'est pas possible. Now, this is his argument. Now, you are supposed to respond to it. Okay? But now, when responding, it is very important that you are formulating sentences naturally. Whatever I am speaking right now in front of you guys, did I ever memorize it? No. I'm speaking naturally in English, right? Because whatever, and if you would be in front of me, let's say if you ask me a question, I didn't understand how we do this practice, so can you explain me again, or can you explain me more? And I will explain to you in English, and I will explain to you naturally, right? Because my English level is built up enough where I'm able to do natural conversation. It doesn't feel memorized. But this is the problem with students, those who are learning French and those who want to clear the exam soon. But the thing is, they feel like they can memorize the responses to the arguments in section B. That is the worst thing you can do. When you memorize, an examiner is easily able to understand that. They're easily able to catch your memorizations. Why? Because when you are memorizing something, you're only just using generic language. Écoute mon ami, je pense que c'est une activité très intéressante pour toi parce que ça va améliorer tes compétences. Tu vois, si tu loues la maison, tu peux gagner beaucoup d'argent. Et c'est pourquoi c'est bon. Tu peux passer de très bons moments avec ta famille à l'étranger. Et c'est pourquoi tu dois faire cette activité. Now, all of these things, they feel very abstract, they feel very generic. So, in order for you to excel in section B, you really have to make sure that you are giving good explanations. Rather than, so let's say the argument is I cannot do this because I'm staying in the home. So, how can I rent it to someone to do the filmmaking while me not being in the home? I'll be homeless, right? So this is the argument. Now you cannot say you are going to earn a lot of money, that is why you should do it. you know, this is going to be a good experience because you are going to see filmmaking, that is why you should do it. That is not my concern, that is not my problem. My problem is ki I won't have a roof on my head. So you have to answer that specific argument and you have to explain more in detail what is going to be the solution to that problem. Okay, so if I say, if the examiner says ki okay, for this reason I don't feel like doing it, now you have to say ki okay, you know, dissect your response one by one. Say oui, tout d'abord tu as raison, il faut avoir le toit sur la tête pour vivre, parce que si tu n'as pas de maison, comment serait-il possible pour toi et ta famille de vivre en tranquillité? Mais tu dois aussi comprendre que tu peux faire Airbnb ou tu peux habiter avec moi si tu veux, toi et ta famille, tu peux habiter avec moi, c'est pas de problème parce que j'ai 3 chambres qui ne sont pas occupées, alors si tu veux je peux t'aider. Ici tu dois comprendre que si tu loues ta maison pour le tournage et au publicitaire, ça va t'aider à gagner environ $4,000 par mois. Et c'est tout à fait, c'est très incroyable parce que maintenant tu travailles, tu peux continuer à travailler, tu vas gagner de l'argent, mais en faisant ça aussi, en plus de ton travail, tu vas gagner un revenu supplémentaire. Et oui, bien sûr, je comprends que ton problème, c'est que tu ne pourrais pas habiter dans la maison, tu n'auras pas le toit sur ta tête. Mais si tu veux, tu peux habiter chez moi ou tu peux louer un autre appartement qui coûte environ $1,000 ou $1,200 par mois. Et même si tu loues un appartement et habites dans cet appartement, et si tu loues ta propre maison pour gagner un peu de revenus, tu auras un profit, tu créeras un profit. C'est pourquoi je pense que afin de gagner plus d'argent, il est nécessaire pour toi que tu fasses quelque chose comme ça. Alors qu'est-ce que tu en dis? Ne, c'est pas bon. Et en plus de ça, ça serait une très bonne expérience. So what you are doing is you are explaining and you are giving the solution to the problem, not just talking about generic things. Okay, now this solution is explained, then you bring more points which are secondary points but still important, like this will be a very good experience because you will be able to see how a movie is made in your house. They are also going to clean your home at the end of this filmmaking. Those points, sure, you can explain them later, but first you have to make sure that you are dissecting the argument and giving a clear and a detailed response to actually convince him or her. If you just keep on saying, oh, it's a very good activity, you will earn more money and it will be a good experience, the examiner is not going to be convinced, okay, and they will keep your score close to CLB 5. Sure, maximum by memorizations and with the help of fixed expressions you can get close to CLB 5, but CLB 7, not a chance. In order to get CLB 6 or CLB 7, your speaking should be developed in such a way where you are able to naturally formulate anything on spot in French. Okay, just like the way you speak in English, that should also be the way you speak in French with acceptable amount of grammatical errors. In terms of grammar, they are not looking for perfection. They are not looking for, your complete, like, okay, every word should be having a correct gender, should have no grammatical mistakes, no conjugation mistakes. That's not the case. Here and there 7 to 8 or maximum 9, 7-8 grammatical mistakes are accepted if you have a very good comfort level in the language. Okay, if you don't have a comfort language, if your spoken language feels memorized, robotic, monotonous, even with 0 grammatical mistakes, that won't be getting CLB 7. Because at the end of the day, you memorized your responses. Okay, so stop memorization. This is one of the biggest thing I want to mention to every student, those who are learning French for TEF TCF Canada. Anywhere, memorization does not work in any exam. Okay, so please make sure to work on that. So how can I work on my expression oral? Before the exam, practice speaking. Obviously, okay, isn't it? I mean, don't worry about these things because the advice that I gave is going to be more beneficial for you. This you guys already know, or you can pause and read if you guys want. But yeah, this is what it's going to be in section A and section B, and this is how to perform well in section A and section B of TEF Canada, because this is the only These are the only reasons today, the reasons that I mentioned. I was very energetic explaining this video today because I have seen this from past 7 to 8 months, that if your responses feel memorized, if your language feels memorized, in TEF Canada exam, you won't be getting more than CLB 5, and it has happened a lot of times. A lot of students have given the exams, and even though their speaking was very good, because it felt memorized, they did not get the score. Okay, so please work on this. Section A, Section B, the more natural you go, the better it is. Idioms are not important. Okay, logical connectors, sure, they're important, but they should flow naturally. Anything which does not come naturally, you should not be using that in the language, because it will feel like you have pushed to use those expressions. Okay, so please make sure to keep in mind these things. Practice more of Section A and Section B, and whenever you are practicing Section B specifically, understand the argument and give the explanation to the argument. Like, give a solution, not just say, oh, we may don't this way. Don't go abstract. Okay, go in detail. So the more you explain the language in detail, better it will be. So all the best for your TEF Canada exam. If you want to learn French, okay, let me know. Sign up for Frenchify programs. I'll show you quickly on my website as well. You will be able to go over here, and we have courses. You can also sign up for a free Frenchify beginner program if you're a complete beginner. That will help you to understand how Frenchify programs work. But apart from that, what I recommend is you book a meet with my team, so that you're able to get more detailed guidance on what you should do, how you should start, and stuff like that. You can go on to courses where you will be able to see all the programs. And if you actually go on to home page, we don't have it right now, but soon I'll be adding more things. So more updates and more good things are coming soon. Yeah, if you are ever confused, if you need help, if you want to start learning French with Frenchify, just click on this blue button, ready to start French for TEF, and I'll see you on the other end. Keep practicing. Au revoir.